Hello again and welcome here to the Husker Online show. Happy spring game week. If you're going Saturday, bring your jacket. Unfortunately, the 80, 90-degree weather is not going to stick around for Saturday, but we're still going to get football. We're still going to get probably a real game with tackling. We're going to get ones-on-ones. We're going to get kind of the spring game that we've kind of craved to see the last several years. And I think that's kind of been the theme as I welcome in Steve Sipple and Robin Washut of this spring. In Sipple, you heard it from Jacob Smith even. He was, when we had the recruit in from Cheshire Academy this week on Recruit Spotlight, he was impressed and surprised just how much contact we saw with live quarterbacks to the ground tackling. We should get the full buffet menu again here on Saturday.
It'd be kind of surprising if they tackled the quarterbacks in the two major scrimmages leading up to the spring game, then didn't do it in the spring game. It goes back to what Trev Alberts said, and I don't know when he was on his radio show about February on his radio show, on his statewide radio show. He just kind of slipped in the conversation that this spring game is going to be game-like. It was, to me, it just sounded so much like a kind of like a shot at the Frost era. Like, it's not going to be like it used to be. We're going to actually have a game like.
I mean, if you make $1 million on your spring game or whatever it is Nebraska makes, they don't make quite $1 million, but they make 500,000+. You better at least give the fans something out of it.
And then Rule on Saturday. Oh, go ahead, Robin. You heard what Rule said on Saturday, this past Saturday.
Yeah, and I was just going to follow up on that. Like, if you're charging money for people to come, you got to put on a show, or at least give them something that's not completely
waste of their day.
Yeah, waste of their day. And the first halves of those thud tackling formats past couple of years has just been awful. Like, how do you even evaluate that? Like, it's not even football.
Trust me, I know.
And so, yeah, with the being a real game, obviously they're going to be limited with what all they can do, just with their numbers, particularly on the offensive line. That's been well documented. And but going to what Rule said, the fact that they're going to make it a point to do good on good, ones versus ones, twos versus twos, to where even if it isn't two separate teams, you're going to get your top offense against your top defense. They're going to be tackling, and the quarterbacks are going to be live. As a fan, that's about as much as you can ask for.
Yeah, there is no protection of any players. I mean, every player has to earn their job, and I think it makes sense. I mean, you talk about Nebraska and the struggles the last few years. I mean, you go back to that Northwestern game, they really toned back fall camp, and they weren't ready even for the physicality of a 1-11 Northwestern team to open the season in Ireland. And I really have a lot of respect for how Rule has done things this spring. They're not going inside. It was brutal. By the way, I coached a soccer game Saturday outside before I came over to practice. 0-3 as a head coach. If anyone's curious, I'm
Sean Lasso.
I am. Yeah, it's I got to go meet with the ownership.
Sean, are you under some pressure now?
Yeah, we got a goal.
Seats getting warm.
Hell, you get pretty critical of coaches.
Yeah, I know. I have a whole new respect.
I might have to go out and check it out, see what's going wrong.
Yeah, write a scathing piece on.
And there's not a lot. I mean, I'm not under the radar. Like, usually the other coach will just say, "Hey, Sean." Like, I'm like, "Oh God!" Like, so like, not only am I 0-3, like the guy knows.
They know who they're beating.
Yeah, they like it.
This is their topic of conversation after the game. Yeah,
they like it. You better tone it down a little bit.
But yeah, Rule took those guys outside, and that's been rare. I mean, think about 30-mile-an-hour freezing cold Saturdays. When a coach at Nebraska, how many coaches at Nebraska in recent years have said we're going to scrimmage still outside?
To be fair, well, yeah, not scrimmage, but to be fair, Bush always took his special teams out there because that's what
it's different.
They welcomed it. They welcomed it. They wanted it to be bad,
to get used to the wind.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the full
team,
show.
Yeah. I don't know how much Frost did that. I don't know, Sean. I just don't even know.
I know because we've been around.
Yeah.
None. They did not go in that type of stuff outside. They would have said, "No, we want to have a controlled scrimmage. We want to, be able to run our stuff."
Yeah.
But
and the fact they don't let their quarterbacks throw, as far as like team stuff, inside in the practice facility. All of the throwing goes outside because they need to be able to throw in the wind, in the cold, in the rain. And the good news is, with the weather being what it has been, they've gotten a little bit of everything. So there's value in that regard.
Rule fits here. He does. It's odd. It's sort of odd when you think about Rule kind of fits here better than the native son. I mean, it's odd, but Yeah, Frost sort
Call him.
Yeah, Frost.
I just got you a call.
Yeah, that might be. I mean, it's when you think about it that way, it kind of boils down to that. Like he's more old school, kind of brings a God, Frost would kill me for saying it, but I mean, he kind of brings a tougher mentality to the equation.
Which you never would have thought.
No,
I mean,
you wouldn't.
The no fear of failure.
That and the way Frost played, I always thought the way Frost played would be the way his teams played, which was, he never went out of bounds when he was a quarterback and he ran. It was tough, physical football. And I thought, okay, that's the way his teams are going to play. They kind of did. I mean, his teams weren't, I wouldn't say Frost's teams were soft, but they never really played like he did. They didn't take on his look that much.
Yeah, and I think with Rule, he's just trying to ingrain that mindset. I mean,
I think that's the way Rule is.
You can't like in 2018 when you're playing Michigan State, or in 2022 in Memorial Stadium when you're playing Wisconsin, you can't really just have controlled environments and run your stuff. You got to figure out how to win the football
100%.
game. And remember the 2018 Michigan State game, how miserable that was in the snow and the cold. And I remember Nebraska came out and said, we just tried to run our stuff to see how it would go. And like the first pass just dropped to the ground in the middle of the air.
They won that game, though.
They won. They did.
Yeah.
They had adjusted.
Yeah.
But like this year against Wisconsin, you can't just say we're going to run our stuff. Like you have to figure out what works in the weather and play in the conditions. And so I've got a lot of respect how they've kind of approached that because it's reality.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I mean, he's made that a point, and Satterfield's made that a point. But Rule definitely has an old school bent he has a kind of an old school approach to football with a kind of a newer age approach to motivating young men. So it seems like there's a good, healthy combination.
What do you guys think about, so Thursday they're practicing late, right? Like it's not like it's like 5 o'clock practice or something like that. And because they want to go under the lights in Memorial Stadium.
I don't understand that.
I mean, maybe it's just you got a bunch of new guys that have never been in Memorial Stadium playing football at night.
Right.
And maybe they want to get that out of the way to where they've been there, done that going into fall camp. So that's just that kind of next level of wanting to make it as game-like in every aspect where, you practice like it's a game. Quarterbacks are live. You're playing a spring game that looks like a game. And now you're doing stuff where you're trying to get in the stadium and simulate all these different elements that is unique to Memorial Stadium to get guys as ready as possible for the actual games that will be played in the fall.
There might be like once a week during the fall, they might go on the lights. I've heard that. I mean, like, don't be surprised if they would do that sometimes during the season, even keeping the morning routine, but working an evening day in there just to kind of adjust.
Makes sense. That makes sense. It really makes sense because they play so many night games.
Yeah. And you think about Minnesota is going to be a night game. Colorado, probably a night game because big noon kickoff, that would be a 10 a.m. game. Are
you calling for a night game at Colorado?
ABC or Fox night game. That's my prediction right now. Mark it down.
Okay.
If I win,
you're good at this stuff.
What do you give me? You're not nothing because
nothing. No, because you're right. You're probably right. No, you're good at. There's certain things you're good at. That's one of them. TV time type stuff. What else are you really good
Coach
at?
Prime Time, baby. Coach Prime Time at night.
You're good at Big Ten front office type stuff.
I'm no Scott Dockerman. That guy's like the.
Oh, you're good schedule stuff though. Yeah, the doctor's goat. I think the doctor might make the schedule.
I think Docterman. I mean, you're not from the Athletic. He's a Iowa-based writer, but he literally is like the Peter Gammons of Big Ten office news.
Yeah, he is. It's not a bad trait. Not a bad little angle to have in your life.
But yeah, that Northern Illinois game, you wonder if that will be a night game. I mean, a lot of that depends on. I'm looking at the schedule here.
How they do in the first two games?
Well, that will be decided before the first.
See, Sean knows this.
The first 3 weeks are decided ahead of time.
Okay,
homecoming games decided. Black
Northern
Friday.
Illinois. I'm gonna say day on that.
Well, a lot will depend on if ESPN2, ESPN, Fox Sports 1, Fox, like if they want it. Okay. And then at that point, does the Big Ten? I mean, a lot of it just depends on whose pick it is in the draft and where they want it. But like Michigan, September 30th,
got to be a night game.
That's gonna have unless Big Noon wants it.
Oh yeah,
but that's a ratings game right there. At Illinois, I hope that's an 11 a.m. game so we can get back to O'Hare that night. Selfishly,
just for our own travel purposes.
We're not driving there.
All right, we've turned this pre-spring game show into a July show. We're breaking down the schedule.
Let's get away from that.
Talking if Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. And
How about 1998 McGuire Sosa?
on July radio here. But all right, when we come back, we're going to break down offensive storylines of the spring. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett, as we get you ready for Saturday's red-white spring game, 1 o'clock. Live on the Big Ten Network. A lot of spring games going on in college football. Transfer portal opened this week. It was a slower week on that front, at least the first day. I mean, there was less than 100 names that went in on opening day.
Really?
Which I think when you look at the timing of spring football around the country, this week you saw more and more names. But then next week after Nebraska gets done, there's 40 spring games, around 40 spring games this weekend from Thursday to Sunday. And then that will really, I think, lead to a bunch of entries next week, and leads me to quarterback at Nebraska. A lot of people ask us, what do you think of this quarterback room? There's 6 scholarship quarterbacks currently here right now, which that has to be a record. I don't know how you could have more than 6 scholarship quarterbacks. And by the way, Mikey Pauley, who would have been another quarterback who's a scholarship baseball player, he went in the transfer portal, and he was at Nebraska as the former Kansas City High School Player of the Year. So they've had a lot of quarterbacks. They just need to get one figured out now.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you think about the thing that we probably don't talk about enough, I don't know, we talk about everything probably enough, but it's sort of interesting when you look at it like this. Heinrich Harburg is he's probably the number 2 guy in camp right now. Nobody talks about Chubb anymore. I mean, Chubba Purdy has sort of become a forgotten man, and it wasn't the case last year. I mean, we couldn't talk enough about Chubba. Right now Chubba's been kind of pushed aside by this sort of Heinrich Harburg phenomenon. Who's obviously running the ball really well in practice. That's what Satterfield said today. He said his superpower is his ability to run physically.
It's like Josh Allen.
Run downhill. Yeah. Now, I wonder what that passing part looks like.
He said it was good. And, I mean, what does that mean, though? Like, compared to the other quarterbacks in the room? Like, so that's going to be the big question with him. Like, the athletic ability and size was never the question. And good news is for him, he's getting a chance to showcase it. Talk about quarterbacks being live. There's probably no guy on the roster that's benefiting from quarterbacks being live than Heinrich Harburg, because he gets to showcase everything
100%
that he brings to the table. So he is a player that has taken advantage of his opportunity and the circumstances at his position as much as probably anybody on the team.
Here's the question for Sean, the recruiting guru. Was Harburg a running quarterback in high school? Did he run it a lot?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's a track athlete. I mean, if COVID wouldn't have, canceled out his track stuff, and I think he enrolled early too, but as a freshman, sophomore, he had state level, high level marks in the high jump and the 100. I mean, he's a very explosive athlete. When he played a Class C1 game, we went to this game against Wood River, Greg and I, it's opening game of the 2020 season. And he was the biggest person on the field. Sure. And so, like, if he wanted to run, he could run. If he wanted to throw, he could throw. He is a physical specimen, and he's got a good arm. It's weird. He's honestly a much better fit to me in this system, apparently, than he was in the previous system, especially for Mark Whipple. I mean, Mark Whipple wanted nothing to do with this guy. That's what's crazy to me, where Matt Rule, an accomplished head coach and a former NFL coach now, they were all over it. And it's from the start. It's a perfect example in life how different managers and leaders can look at people differently.
Oh, it's a
life lesson.
Now, does Harburg just slide to number 3 though when Casey comes back? Because it looks like Casey's coming back. Casey is right on schedule with his shoulder.
He's doing some throwing now. Limited throwing.
So he's right on schedule in his return from shoulder surgery. Satterfield today says he's doing limited throwing. And then when he comes back, it's on, right?
And I thought,
so we thought we talked off air. Is Casey going to be around? Looks like he's going to be around, right?
And the nugget of nuggets from Tuesday's practice was Ben Scott, the Arizona State transfer at center. He said that Casey Thompson is literally the first guy in the building and the last guy out of the building. And look at Sipples. Casey Thompson
Good boy.
smile.
Hear that, Sean?
I
First
just
guy
literally
in.
saw like a little fist pump there. I mean, he's
First guy in, last guy out. He's
a
staying.
Steve Sipple.
Well, I mean, he's competitive. You saw last year. He'll listen. He'll give him a tough decision, is my guess.
That Harburg maybe could be the third, which is, then leads you to believe where's Chubba, where's Logan, and what about Torres? I mean, what's the conversation like with him?
No, I mean that's a great question. What do you do? Well, here's what you do. You have very frank conversations with him at the end of spring ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
How many do you need? I think you need to have 4 for sure. So like, do 2 of these guys? Now, if you're a transfer that came in a year ago, though, like, I've heard a lot of different things. How does that work? Can they not ask you back at that point? Can those guys become double transfers legally because of the coaching change? I mean, there's so many waivers
Perhaps.
and loopholes to the game of college football that change every month.
Right.
That it's hard to know all the intricacies of what happens if Chubba Purdy wants to transfer. Is it going to be that easy?
It'd be a double transfer.
Could he be a double transfer?
I don't know.
I think for some of these younger guys, like I'm thinking of Torres in particular, when Satterfield was asked directly about him and just kind of what he was looking forward to seeing in the spring game. He says, I want to see how he performs on the big stage, because Richard Torres has never played in front of 60,000 people before in his life. Right. I mean, he was here, wasn't he here last spring, but was hurt and didn't play in the spring game.
Yeah, he was hurt.
Yeah, so this will be his first time playing a quote unquote game in Memorial Stadium. And how does he handle that? I mean, is that stage, even if it is a practice, there's a lot of people watching. You're going to be on
comes
TV.
Out fired.
Yeah, I know.
6 for 6.
So like,
100.
talk about a guy that like maybe for spring game purposes has a lot riding on that. I put Torres right up there.
Yeah, you hope a guy like that comes in and says, "All right, I want to give the coaches something to think about here."
Yep.
First
chance to show if he's a gamer or not.
Right.
And
I'd love to see kids like do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get our first real good spring look of Gabe Urban Jr. at running back, who, they continue to praise. I was told in the scrimmage Saturday, he had roughly 60-ish yards rushing, a lot of physical downhill runs. Really? I'm looking forward to seeing that and seeing what that looks like.
I wonder, Satterfield was asked today which running backs have risen to the top. He just wouldn't go there. They're all pretty good. That's the thing. All those guys are good
and unique.
Yeah, and we know about them. I mean, this isn't hyperbole because they've all been around. Yeah, they all are all a little different, but they're all pretty good. I don't envision a bell cow here. I don't.
Well, Grant,
he was kind of last year.
I mean, but they overused him, and I think it led to him getting banged up, and then he wasn't the same back towards the back.
They wouldn't have overused him if A.J. Allen stayed healthy.
Correct.
Yeah, that was a big part.
Yeah, he went down against Oklahoma. What he did to his shoulder,
labrum.
Yeah, labrum.
Or collarbone.
Collarbone. It was a collarbone.
Sorry about that.
Incredibly painful. Collarbone injury. If he had been healthy, they wouldn't have had to lean on Grant. It would have been a whole different discussion. He's been out most of the spring. I don't know what will we see him on Saturday? That's the question.
Don't know. We'll find out Thursday.
Okay.
But I thought also notable that Satterfield talked about one of their main points of emphasis over the last couple of weeks has been pass protection with those running backs. And he says every one of them has done really well, especially in that scrimmage. He was really happy with the way the backs protected in pass pro.
There's the backs right there. And that's a good looking group. And I'll tell you who's a good pass protector is Ramir. I mean, Johnson he's a great protector.
It's going to be interesting to see. It's also going to be interesting to see if they have enough offensive line numbers to piece together 2 full units. Right. Ben Scott was out of Green, though. That was promising. So
today,
what is Tuesday. I mean, I wrote this on Monday. There's 14 linemen on the roster. We know Prohaska's out. What is the number that they would need to be at to go 2 units, two teams? Like, do they have to have 11 or 12 available to play with 2 units?
Yeah, wouldn't you think?
Or 10's not going to do it. I don't think. You can't just say we're going to play Ben Scott and Teddy and those guys.
Then you're putting your guys at risk. I think
that's why I say
totally counterproductive.
Yeah, those
it'll be offense versus defense, which is fine because they're going to go good on good. Like that's all I want to see. I don't care if they're split up with like a bunch of walk-ons mixed with starters. Like that doesn't do anything for me. I want to see good on good, iron sharpens iron, that sort of stuff, even if it is just for a few series.
Yeah, 100%. God, those linemen. They all do look good. I mean, even Teddy, Teddy was up for media availability on Tuesday. Teddy's even slimmed down. I mean, they all look like
Teddy got up to 330 coming off his injury.
They look they're slim. Not too slim, I don't think. They just look slim.
Yeah, I say
Benhart was
324 now, and that's about as well put together as 324 pounds can be.
Yeah.
Teddy said he was close too. He's close to being fully cleared. At least that's what he said. What does that mean? I don't know, but he said he'll be 100% for summer workouts.
That's all that matters.
All right, when we come back, we are going to talk defensive storylines to watch here in the spring game. You're listening to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett, as we talk now some spring defensive storylines to watch in this game. And, there's a lot there. Sounds like Stephon Wynn has had a really nice spring. I'm excited to get a look at him. Nash Hutmacher, where's he at?
Those two guys.
Princewell Emmanuelayan.
That guy.
He's had a good spring.
Yep.
That we'll get a good glimpse of Maverick Noonan,
Yep.
MJ Sherman. So there's a
Chief
lot.
Borders.
Chief Borders. There's a lot of intrigue. Where is your eyes looking at, Steve Sipple?
Just playmakers. I mean, you always look for explosion off the edge, for instance. I mean, Nebraska, I don't know. I mean, I continually say it. You got to start looking at Nebraska and thinking, okay, if they're going to get back to where everybody wants them, you got to have playmakers.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have explosive guys that can win in the Big Ten. So so I'm looking at Chief Borders. Is he that guy? I'm looking at MJ Sherman. Is he that guy? Yeah. I mean, inside, Wynn was just he was adequate last year. Can he be more than adequate? I'll tell you one thing about Wynn. He's a house now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it looks like he's a lot bigger and I could be wrong, but he looks a lot bigger to me. Like it looks like they told him get big because he's a house. So I hope that translates,
Yeah. Who pops on defense? Like who's going to be that guy where you look at and like, whoa.
Well, you hope it's Borders.
They might have a guy here. Yeah. I mean, like, so of all those players, like who immediately jumps out? And then in the secondary as well, what's the cornerback situation look like?
Opposite Newsome.
Yeah. And
we know what it is with Newsome. He's gonna be a star.
So, I mean,
Miles Farmer is going to factor in probably at that rover.
Yeah.
Or, they play Farmer at corner.
Yeah. They said Farmer could play corner. And then obviously with Hartzog, what's he going to do? And, that sort of thing. So, I mean, there's a lot of just unknowns in that level too, that are going to be intriguing to watch. And then, how about some guys like AJ Rollins?
Yeah.
They've been talking about him all spring about how he's this natural pass rusher. Let's see it.
Yeah, let's see it.
I'm very curious to see what that picture looks like.
Yeah, I am too.
Omar Brown.
I haven't heard much from him. That's the other thing. Injuries. Judy, Elijah. I heard on Saturday, Elijah. Now, I don't know if we'll see him or not.
Yeah,
ankle injury
right
in the scrimmage.
I would be mildly surprised if we see Elijah Judy in the spring game
because he hurt his ankle in the scrimmage Saturday.
And if he's if let's just say he's ginger at all, why would you risk that?
You can't.
And what if it's severe? Like how severe? And that will be a good question later in the week for Matt Rule when we talk later in the week to him to get a rundown on that deal with Elijah, and we'll see him at the spring game, one or the other.
Yeah, just to nail something down, as far as what you're looking for, the corner, like if they trot the one defense out there, obviously you're looking, who is that one defense? Mm-hmm. And the one place you definitely will look is the corner opposite Newsome, because they're moving Hartzog around. Now it could be Hartzog. They could just say, okay, we've moved him around, but we're going to put him at corner. Mm-hmm. Or it could be somebody else, and that would be really interesting. Who is that? Newsome is clearly one of the guys they've identified as a bell cow, a guy that's going to play all the time.
Yeah, he's the known commodity.
Yeah.
You're listening here to the Husker Online Show as we talk defensive storylines. The 3-3-5, what will it look like? I mean, is it going to be, I think people speak like we're experts on this thing. Like
I'm not
either, but some of our colleagues, really get into breaking down the jack and the rover and all these intricacies of
there's
the
new
scheme.
Positions. Yeah. I mean,
what is it going to look like?
It'll look like probably three safeties,
How
safety.
fast will they move? I mean, because this is a see ball, get ball type scheme. We heard Tony White use those exact words.
Yeah.
I know Marcus Satterfield on Tuesday said that he can't imagine an offense going up against as many different looks as what Nebraska's currently going against with Tony White's system. So what you see on play 1 might look a whole lot different on play 3 or 4, depending on down distance situation. So that type of versatility within the scheme, you know, how many different looks are they going to show?
A lot.
In spring
Well,
game?
I don't know
in the spring game.
Right.
Like how much into the playbook are they going to dip? Or are they just going to keep it as basic as possible?
Right. Yeah, I think the answer to Sean's question is you're going to see a lot of different looks, a lot of different. Maybe not in the spring game like Rob's saying, but I think when fall comes, a lot of different looks, a lot of different formations, and a lot of different personnel. I think that's the answer. Now, I don't, will they just line up in a defined 3-3-5 that you can clearly identify all the time? No, I don't think it will be like that. No, I think they'll move guys around and it'll look different at times.
You're listening here to the Husker Online show as we put a final thought on just the defensive storylines and whatnot. MJ Sherman too. I mean, that's a
we
guy
mentioned him. Yeah,
just seeing how see
if he's explosive.
Do they have guys that can get to the quarterback? And we'll get to see ones-on-ones, so we'll get some real matchups. Like if Benhart or any of these tackles get beat, that will be you not a concern, but it's going to get your attention. Like
it'll be a concern.
I was trying to be.
Yeah, no, it'll be a concern. I mean,
it's Nebraska. It'll be a concern.
Yeah, well, and he's gotten beat a lot. If we're seeing it again, it's okay to say it's a concern. It's just fine, Sean.
All right. When we come back, we're going to shift over to the mailbag. We got a lot of questions, so I'm giving us some extra time today for the mailbag. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett. Let's bring into the program Abby Barmore, the sunshine of the show. Wow. It's great to have you on, Abby.
Hello.
How about that, Abby? You're the sunshine.
It's a pretty good intro.
Yeah.
What do you have? What's the mailbag? What do you got us to start out with today?
All right. Our first one. Which position group do you think will have the best performance on Saturday?
Man, I'm going to say running back.
Okay.
I'm going to say we're going to walk away feeling really good about the running backs. And that's without A.J. Allen probably playing.
It's a good group. I'm going to say Boom Sheeny. I think he'll boom a few. And we'll all be like, oh, man, he's back. They got the big punter.
What about Bleak Road? Do you think you could walk away saying, you know what? Because I think there's this notion locally that Alvano's just going to run away with this thing.
I don't think that. I never do that with a kid. We'll see about Alvano, how he responds. I don't know. Bleak Road doesn't have a big leg if it's windy.
Bleak Road will tell you, though, he can go 55.
Really?
Yes. I mean, I think you look at him as a little guy and you don't think he's got a big leg, but
they didn't
let him try.
No,
they tried the one against Georgia Southern, right? Or was that him? Or did they put in Frankie? I can't remember.
Put in Frankie.
Yeah, because he couldn't kick that far.
Right.
Did Frankie land anywhere?
Unclear. Rob, what's your position group?
I'm gonna go tight end because I think Fedoni's gonna make enough plays to where people are gonna all of that hope will be briefly validated.
Man.
And Gilbert.
Yeah.
This could be a pretty interesting day, actually.
Yeah.
It could.
So, really, that's going to be one of his first debuts.
Yeah, what if Fedoni catches like 5 passes for 110?
That's what I'm saying. And tight ends usually catch a lot of balls in the spring game.
Yeah. That would be that would be genuine excitement if Fedoni does.
He gets like a 15-yarder down the seam.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Looks like George Kittle.
Yeah.
All right. What do you got next, Abby?
Okay, this one's a little bit different. Which position group needs to have the best or most improved performance on Saturday?
O-line.
And why is it offensive line?
Way to cut off all of us.
No, stay in front of you. You always take the good one.
I think that's right.
What do you think, Rob? I mean, offensive line, that's a no-brainer, right?
How about tackle, if you want to isolate it?
But no Prohaska.
Mm-hmm.
What about,
so who are the tackles?
What's up with Turner
Hart.
Corcoran? Like, was his name brought up by
Yes.
Roto? Okay.
Yes.
Where's he playing?
He was asked specifically about Turner, and he said that Turner's made big gains with his strength, which is important in that he's their most versatile offensive lineman. He can play all 5 spots if needed.
So are the tackles on the one line on Saturday, Benhart and Corcoran?
That would be my guess.
Yeah, he could. I think when it's all said and done, Newelly and Corcoran could be the guards. That's
when it's all
with
said
Prohaska and Benhart at tackle, Scott at center, with Piper as kind of like the first man in.
Okay.
That's how
That makes sense.
And Piper could still win a job, but Corcoran, you just hope that the guy that we know he is, he can become that player.
Yeah, he might be that guy that just is his role is dependent on others, like Teddy staying healthy and Benhart being what they expect him to be. And if neither of those happen, then he could go from guard to tackle wherever it may be. So I think his role is yet to be determined in my opinion.
So what other position would you say? Would you just shift right to the D line?
D line,
Oh.
both lines.
Oh.
The pass rush. I mean, I think I wouldn't just say D line. Do they have guys that can beat Big Ten tackles in one-on-one 4-man rush situations?
Yep.
That's football right there, boys.
Yeah, it is.
Can your 4 beat their 5?
Like we were talking earlier,
100%.
the
That's football
athleticism.
right there.
Can the athleticism at those positions pop to
Right.
where you look at a guy and you have a whoa moment
Yeah.
where like they do something that catches your attention?
And we're talking mostly about Borders and Sherman, right? I mean, that's who we're talking mostly about.
Well,
as far as the new guys.
The D ends and the edge play. But
Well, you're looking Jamari Butler, you're looking Blaze Gunnerson, but I'm talking about the transfers. But no, I guess you are. You're looking at Butler and Gunnerson pretty closely in this game, right?
you think about like Bo Pelini, though, not only was he a great defensive mind, but his 4 always beat your 5 or 6. And that makes your defensive coordinator's job that much easier if your front 4 can do something.
Mm-hmm.
And can they get that out of this group?
Mm-hmm.
But, Pelini, I'll give him, like, go back to like Virginia Tech when they played Tyrod Taylor. Like, they purposely didn't rush up the field on him. They like kept him in the pocket on purpose just to freak him out at that age and throw. And he struck. I mean, so like his defense wasn't just like, can your front 4 be effective on their own?
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't seen that in a while. I mean, honestly, since Malik Collins and Vincent Valentine and Khalil and Carlos Davis, by the way, all 4 of those guys were basically pros when they had that group playing on the D line.
Mm-hmm. Well, Khalil and Carlos, I guess that they played on some pretty good defenses, but not like Valentine and Collins. Right? Am I wrong?
No.
I mean, Valentine and Collins, the defense.
They were at least a part of some like 9-win type teams.
Okay.
Which, God,
we're back in the weeds.
The glory years.
We're back in our July shows here again. All right, what do you got next, Abby?
Anything on Pete Rose?
All right.
Oh.
Let's talk about Pete Rose.
Okay, next one. How many fans do you think will be at Memorial Stadium on Saturday, and where do you think the attendance will rank in the Big Ten?
60. I'll say 62,000.
I think so. Weather's not supposed to be
They're
great.
right around 60, right?
56, wasn't it? Last check.
Well, I think there was another update from the ticket office that said they were right just under 60.
Okay.
So
they can get 65.
you take into the walk-up, I don't know. Yeah, you said, what did you say, 62?
62s.
All right, I'll say 63.
Okay, I'll go with that.
It's not going to be a big walk-up.
I don't either. Yeah, if it was nice out, if it was like 75 and sunny.
48 and windy's a little.
It's gonna test some fandoms.
And we're walking from the office, guys. It's gonna be a little bit of a.
Oh, yeah, I think we can handle that, Sean. 48.
Man up.
Yeah, 48. Come on, wear a t-shirt.
I coached in rougher weather in the soccer game last week, so
Carly handled it just fine. You probably can too, Sean.
All right, what do you got next, Abby?
What do you think of the new Herbie?
Okay, fitter, more fit than the previous edition of that Herbie. I'm not as fit as the one that Peterson rolled out, which I never even saw. I don't
the Boyd Epley trained Herbie.
Yeah.
They like, remember they had a Saturday Night Live type press conference where Boyd Epley literally went through the training regimen of Herbie Husker.
And they just went with the white.
Do you remember that, Robin?
Yeah. It's kind of an interesting skin tone.
It's like an SNL type deal.
It's an interesting way to handle the skin tone. Just make him completely white as toilet paper.
Yeah.
It's fine though.
People are talking about it.
It's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine.
It could have been a lot worse. I'm like,
Yeah.
it doesn't like. There's nothing about it that like gets me like
God,
triggered or anything.
That's
like
a good way to put it,
Yeah,
Robin.
that's like I get it. They accomplished, I think, what Trev wanted to do. He said he wanted to put a modern touch on the old Herbie, and I think they did that. They eliminated the controversy with his hand sign. They got the corn husk back in there and all that sort of stuff.
What was the controversy with his hand sign?
Oh, if the OK symbol meant something beyond okay.
Hey,
that was
I
not
think
okay.
It looks good. It's fine. I would say it is well done.
Yeah, so I mean, it's fine. The one thing I do have a complaint about is like the other sports. So like The football one, like Herbie's got some good arm muscle definition.
Yeah.
Even the basketball, he looks like he's got these skinny little arms and a big gut and skinny legs. It's like,
Oh, really?
come on, let's give Herbie a little bit more muscle tone.
Well, and I don't know. Do you guys know the true history of Herbie Husker, how it all came about, like the image of it? So the 1965 Cotton Bowl, there was a character artist, Dirk West was his name, and he drew pictures. And Don Fox Bryant, the late legendary sports information director, they had them draw up like what they wanted Herbie Husker to be, and that is like how like it became what it is today. Like, so
it's a 73 Cotton Bowl.
Oh, not 65.
We'll double check that at some point, but I think it was 73.
Because
did they play in the Cotton Bowl in 65?
Well, I was looking back at the Cotton Bowl dates. Nebraska played in 65 and 74.
Oh,
and I thought that
I think it was 73.
The
So been the 74
73
Cotton Bowl, yeah.
Okay, so Herbie Husker was developed that late.
I think so.
But it was at the Cotton Bowl in the early 60s.
Well, I will tell you this. That's what our story said on 3. It was a 73.
Okay,
Cotton
the 73. I got my Cotton Bowls crossed. There's
74 Cotton Bowl.
So they played in the Cotton Bowl in 65 and 74, but
Okay.
it was the 74 Cotton Bowl in the 73 season. And Don Bryant, he actually had the original character of Herbie Husker in his office, like that one at his, that was made at that Cotton Bowl. And I think that's somewhere inside the stadium now, but that's how they developed Herbie Husker.
Yeah. They put it on the media guide that first, then 74. It was on the media guide. I wasn't around, but it was on the media guide.
What do you got left, Abby?
All right, we have 2 more. Who will be the top 2 quarterbacks this spring?
Quarter or corner?
Quarter.
Quarter.
Who is that, Sean? Come on.
Well, it's Jeff Sims, and you probably got to say Casey Thompson right now. That's your 1-2.
So
At the spring game.
Spring game.
Oh,
yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Harburg 2.
Yeah.
Sims 1, Harburg.
Sims 1, Harburg 2.
No debating.
No. Purdy 3.
Who's 4? I don't know.
Torres
4 for sure.
Yeah. Then Wokey.
Okay. Yeah.
Jack
right.
Wokey, the
you're right.
walk-on transfer from Old Miss, is probably the 5th guy. And we learned that the baseball player Mikey Pauley, he's a quarterback. He's gone. He's in the transfer portal.
Come fall, I do think we're gonna have a horse race. I don't know if I would have said that 2 weeks ago, but now what you hear about Casey,
the pendulum swings.
yeah, he's all in, and he'll make it a race.
Well, if your rule, it's a 1-year guy. So like, why would you not want him here? It's a hell of it's a heck of an insurance policy to have 2 quarterbacks like that on your roster.
Well, especially when a guy's doing the things Casey's doing, to where everyone you ask him about says he's the most engaged player that's out. Like, he's in every team meetings. He's wearing a headset during the scrimmages, going through all the plays, coaching up his teammates on the sideline. So, even though he's not playing, he is a part of everything they're doing in practice, in meetings, in the locker room. So he has not gone away whatsoever. And you can handle something like that, a situation like that, where you have kind of some potential egos getting bruised, if you have the right people involved. And so far, it seems like Casey's handling it as well as anyone could imagine.
Well, Casey handled last season as well as anybody could possibly imagine. The reason
It's credit to him
so ardently is because his investment in the program. You just don't dismiss people who invest themselves that much. You can't just casually dismiss that.
I agree.
And that's why I get a little upset sometimes.
How many teams in America have 2 guys on their roster with 25 or 20 plus Power 5 starts?
Not many.
It's a heck of an advantage.
I think Ole Miss would, they got Jackson Dart and Spencer Sanders,
but there's not many.
There's not many
Power 5. And then Chuba Purdy and Logan Smothers also have Power 5 starts.
Yeah, they got it's incredible amount of
They
experience.
have 4 guys, and then by the way, Harburg is seeing high reps over those other guys right now. So
it's fascinating, it really is.
All
It's
right.
really a fascinating room.
Final question, Abby.
What is your favorite spring game memory?
Well, you got to go. The Hoffman run, the Pelini
Yeah,
cat.
that's hard to beat.
Those are pretty legendary.
10-year
moments.
anniversary of the Hoffman run, right?
Yeah, it is.
And the 9-year anniversary of the Pelini cat.
Is it the 9-year anniversary?
Yeah. I don't
Pelini
know.
Cat was a very bizarre moment.
Yeah, like that's not a highlight for me. I don't know. It was more just like
A low light.
What are we doing here? Hoffman.
Yeah,
There is no other
if you
answer.
try to over,
There's no other answer.
Yeah. What as far as like the on-field play, I don't know. Stuart Bradley, that moment,
The 03 spring game.
yeah, when he blew up a guy at the goal line, I'll always remember that
03.
because he was largely unknown at that point. You're like, who who is this Stuart Bradley guy that keeps blowing people up? Well, he ended up being a very good player. Ended up playing for the Philadelphia Eagles.
What was the year when they did like the offense versus defense, and the defense could score, and like rather than like just run the ball out, the quarterback
Patrick O'Brien
threw it, and then the walk-on kid picked it off for the game. Like he scored points to help his team
2017.
It was
win.
rough for O'Patrick.
Yeah, and like he got carried off the field.
Yeah.
Like Rudy.
Well, Keyshawn Johnson
awesome.
was the intended receiver, I think. There,
Keyshawn Johnson Jr. Yeah.
and after the game, there was that kind of that iconic picture of that era of Keyshawn Johnson Sr. on the field with his hand around his son, kind of coaching him and giving him some of his thoughts there. And that was the last we ever saw of Keyshawn.
Yeah, very interesting
I mean,
times.
He made it about another month at Nebraska.
Yeah, Keyshawn Sr. had a huge entourage on the sideline. It was really impressive. I mean, Keyshawn was down there they had a lot of people down there.
That was an interesting era. I mean,
It was. It was.
There were dudes showing up to the spring game wearing like Keyshawn Johnson Senior jerseys, like from the Panthers. I remember that vividly. Walking, there's a guy with a Panthers
Bookie Radley
Keyshawn
Hiles.
Johnson jersey. It's like, one, how do you find that? Two, well done.
Yeah, well,
There were like grown men like having Bookie Radley Hiles hold their babies and take
Yeah.
pictures of them.
Yeah, it was a spectacle.
that was quite a spectacle.
Or people like Western Nebraska now goes by North Stadium Insider. Yeah, we know that's you. You change your username. He would always like post those photos on the message boards over the years. So hopefully we get tagged on the board for this little call out there.
Hey, ouch.
Yeah, I'm having fun.
Yeah, you're having
He's
fun.
like one of our biggest like goofballs on the board, trolls all the time.
Okay.
So we can troll him a
Bookie.
little bit.
So Bookie, yeah, his career I think is over.
Yeah, he played at Washington and Oklahoma.
Oklahoma and then Washington, right?
All right. When we come back, we're going to talk recruiting weekend and also basketball recruiting. Lots to cover on that next. You're listening to the Husker Online Show. And welcome back here to the Husker Online Show. Final segment of the show. Red White Spring Game on Saturday, 1:00 kick on the Big Ten Network. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett as we are talking recruiting. The visitor weekend, kind of as we expected, gentlemen, was going to pick up, and it has. For just 2024 already, we've confirmed several 4-stars that are going to be coming into Lincoln, highlighted on that list by Brandon Baker. He'll be coming with his mom and dad and his brother. So that's visit number 2. And I had a great conversation with Brandon. I'm going to share some more of that in Tunnel Talk here on Friday on Husker Online, just kind of where things are at with Nebraska. But that's one to watch. Dylan Williams, the top linebacker, arguably in California, will be here from Long Beach Poly. He's coming with his cousin as well, who's a 2026, who has offers. Carter Nelson will be back in Lincoln. Promising sign. And then you go down that list. Kamar Mathadi, another top linebacker in the state of California, 4-star, will be in town. Some Texas guys here as well, from Peyton Morgan, a safety out of Pflugerville, and then Micaiah Sanya from Arlington. Martin, a Bob Wager player who's a 4-star. Willis McGahee, the 4th, out of Miami. He'll be in for a second trip. He is the son of Willis McGahee. Gibson Pyle, a Nebraska commit. Now, Kamir Prescott, we watched his film Sipple after practice. That's a guy that can run and he can hit.
Yeah, he's a hitter.
He's a tough Philadelphia kid. He'll be coming in town, commit Ashton Murphy. Then you got some offer guys, non-offer guys, and other guys that will be here as well. But then for 2025, Nebraska is going to be bringing in, a really, really notable name, or he'll be coming in on his own. Douglas Utu from Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas. Utu is one of the top offensive linemen in the country for 2025. 6'5", 270. And he'll be coming in this weekend too. So y'all, Brandon Baker and Douglas Utu, both at this.
Man, this has to be, people got to be rejoicing if you're a Nebraska fan. This is exactly what it's going to require for Nebraska to get, if they're really going to compete with Ohio State and Michigan. This is what it's going to take. Baker coming back with his parents and a brother. That's serious.
Mm-hmm.
And that's real. There's no way they're going to do that unless this was serious.
And they loved it. I mean, the family absolutely loved their visit here.
The number 1 tackle in the country that's a gigantic story. I mean, they got a shot with him. That's all you can ask for.
Yeah, and there's a lot going on there, but I can tell you Nebraska has impressed them. And The staff has impressed them. So that is one of the bigger recruiting storylines of the weekend is Brandon Baker making that return. And good news, we are going to have a full menu of recruit spotlights, Steve. I'm going to call you Steve because
very odd. Thank you.
I think it's weird to say Steven.
Yeah. Okay.
Like if I said it's Steven, like people would be like,
really
what the hell's
weird.
wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like,
No, I wouldn't. It'd be interesting, but
I mean,
I wouldn't say what.
Do I have to say Sip or is it cool to say Steve?
Steve's just fine. Yeah.
But we've got a good group of recruit spotlight interviews going on this weekend. I mentioned Brandon Baker.
There he is.
He'll join us on Recruit Spotlight. Dylan Williams will be up here for Recruit Spotlight. Kamar Mathudi will be up here for Recruit Spotlight. And we're going to talk to Kamir Prescott.
Okay.
And then DeAndre Barnes, a 2023 signee. So we're going to have a good group of interviews brought to you by our sponsors, Tanner's Sports Bar and Grill at Tavern 80, that will roll out over the weekend, some on Saturday, some on Sunday, but should be very telling to get kind of a firsthand account from Brandon Baker after the spring game.
And spring game hoops. Is Hunter going to be here?
Yes, that's
Hunter Salas.
As of recording time, that's the one confirmed official visit. There could be more, maybe some unofficials, maybe another official too that get added to that. Still working to confirm. Probably have a solid list on that by the end of the week. But Hunter's the big one, and he's a priority guy now that Nebraska's going to put all their eggs in that basket. And it should be noted that right now he's on his way to Wake Forest for his first official visit. So the Demon Deacon, Steve Forbes, are going to get the first crack at him, and Nebraska's going to be able to follow. And this could be a important weekend in order to stay in the hunt there.
Would he go somewhere else besides Wake Forest in Nebraska?
Yeah, I mean, he had obviously a multitude of other options. I don't know how likely. Like Arizona came to mind just because Tommy Lloyd, the coach there, was his lead recruiter at Gonzaga. I don't know how much movement has gone. I know Arizona's reached out. Alabama was another school, but it's hard to gauge.
Where's Creighton in this?
The traction. My read is if the Alexander kid comes back, they're not going to recruit him. But if he leaves,
Trey Alexander.
Yeah, Trey Alexander. But if Alexander leaves, they might try to make a late push that could make things interesting. But as it stands right now, I think Nebraska's in a good spot, especially if they're able to do what they need to do this weekend.
Be a gigantic story, guys. If Hunter Salas would return home, the 5-star player, one of the most highly recruited players in his class from Millard North, comes home and plays, it would be a gigantic story.
Yeah, just for the optics, but also with the role that he would fill
Sure.
on that team. He can play the point. He's not a true point guard, quote unquote, but he certainly could give them another option, and he would be probably from day one their best on-ball defender on the perimeter.
Robin, what is the biggest selling point? I mean, because I think, if you're just a casual fan and you see some of these guys coming in here, some pretty high-profile transfers and visitors, what is the hook that is getting them to come to Nebraska or be interested in Nebraska right now?
Well, I mean, the usual, obviously the Big Ten, the level of competition. I know Rink Mast said that was like his number one thing. He wanted to play in the Big Ten. And so Nebraska checked all the other boxes, but that was the big one for him. And then Fred Hoiberg's NBA development. Despite their struggles, they put 3 straight guys in the league. Granted, Isaiah Roby wasn't Fred's, but they've got a run now with putting players that maybe that doesn't translate here, but they get developed to the point that they become draft picks. So that's another big point. And then obviously with a guy like Hunter, I'm sure all they got to do is say, hey, Sam Griesel, tell them what it's like to be the hometown kid that comes back and helps your team take a step forward, your home state team. The celebrity that comes with that, I mean, it's hard to replicate that. Hunter Salas will not find that opportunity anywhere else, even at Creighton.
No.
And so that's got to be something that I think gets pushed hard here to where, you kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit at Gonzaga where you were just kind of a role piece off the bench. You can come to Nebraska, be a featured part of our rotation. Everyone's going to know your name. All your friends and family are going to be able to come to every game, and you're going to have an instant celebrity that few places, if any, are going to be able to offer you.
Right. And when you first say you wouldn't get that at Creighton, I had to think about it. You're right. No, Creighton, I was sort of amazed. This is my read. Now, you guys don't have to agree with me. When they got to the Elite Eight, I didn't sense that the state was enraptured. I didn't sense that, okay, this is must see TV all over the state. Now, if Nebraska were in the Elite Eight, it would be. First of all, there'd be a lot of people with having heart attacks, but he wouldn't get the notoriety at Creighton, the statewide notoriety that he would at Nebraska. Probably not even close.
Yeah, Creighton's obviously a much better program than Nebraska, but you're right, on a statewide scene,
Just doesn't get it.
It kind of reminds me growing up in Omaha. I always thought the College World Series was so big, and then as I've lived in Lincoln now the last 20 plus years, you realize like nobody really outside of Omaha cared too much about the College World Series.
Pockets of people,
but not like, like we shut down, my family and like the people I grew up around, like we'd shut down our life for the College World Series.
That doesn't happen in Lincoln. Not many people are shutting down their lives.
Like we'd be down there every day.
Right. And if Nebraska were in the Elite Eight, people would shut down their lives across the state, but that didn't happen with Creighton.
Yeah, if Creighton made the Final Four, let's like use Tanner's in Lincoln or sports bars, like it'd just probably be a normal Final Four crowd. If Nebraska made a Final Four, they'd open up the Pinnacle Bank Arena and have people in there watching.
Right, 100%.
And the arena would be full.
The arena would be full. Yeah,
it'd be nuts.
Yeah.
So again, that's I'm sure going to be something that gets hammered home to where now they have a tangible example of it. It's not like come back and be the hero. Come back and do what Sam Griesel did.
Yeah.
And they had like a marginally successful season, but just even with that, look what the notoriety Sam Griesel got. He was beloved by people. Like you have that opportunity at Nebraska, and nowhere else is going to be able to offer it to that level.
All right, should be a good weekend. Not only we got Nebraska baseball at Iowa, we got the Red-White Spring Game, 1:00 Saturday. We got Frank Solich coming back. We'll have some coverage of that. He's going to hold a press gathering Friday, so we'll have some coverage out of that as well on Friday. And then plenty of recruiting coverage, starting off with recruit spotlight interviews over the weekend. So make sure you're on HuskerOnline.com. We got a great special, $29.99. Get you access until August 31st. If you're not a subscriber to us, make sure you follow us, like us on YouTube, or find us anywhere that you can find podcasts.